sad part is there's a gentleman that's
You posted it.
relative
Put it in the agenda.
to agreed.
I did. You heard me. You heard me. Oh, God.
So I go to church and people are like, well, how are you doing? You look pretty good. I'm like, oh, thank you, I'm feeling pretty good. That's stress. That's life. What are you doing?
When they're all sending food to your house and they got free dinner.
It's the joy and excitement. I think when you have an eye, nobody
He meant to respond to trying.
I'm the friend.
I want one of the first ones.
I got rid of the hardest thing.
We started out in the boardroom. So if you're okay, you want to be all squished
Let's call the meeting to order. You need to call a roll pattern. We have Christy Harshberger here. She's a legal counsel for ISAC. She's going to answer all your legal questions. What she says is going to be true.
It will be true, maybe not right though.
That's, go ahead.
All right, well, my name is Christy Harshberger. I am legal counsel with ISAC, and I have been with ISAC for just about 2.5 years now. I started in May 2011. So some of you might have worked with my predecessors, Nate Bonnet, and before that, David Vestal. And why we're here today, we are visiting, an ISAC staff member is visiting all of the 99 counties. We're trying to get that accomplished before fall school. It was just kind of an initiative to get ISAC out in the counties. You know, if you don't necessarily have a chance to make ISAC meetings, kind of talk about what ISAC does for counties, what we can do better, what you'd like to see changed. So, you know, I'm not necessarily here to answer legal questions today, but certainly you got lucky and got me as the staff member to visit. So if you do have questions, we can try to talk about some of those. But certainly, you know, if you want to interrupt at any point, I've kind of got 4 or 5 broad topics that I want to ask about. But this is your meeting and your time, so feel free to interject. I am here, I was in Lamar's for the last 2 days. Our board president this year is Darren Raymond, the Plymouth County attorney. So we were having every September, our board meeting is at the hometown of our board president. So I appreciate everybody taking their time today. This worked out great in my schedule, since I was just over in Lamar's. But I'm happy that everybody's here. And a little bit more about me. I'm originally from Mediapolis, Iowa. I went to the University of Iowa for undergrad, had a journalism and poli-sci major, and then I went to Drake for law school. When I first got out of law school, I worked in private practice. I worked at Brown Winnick in Des Moines and did a lot of work with ethanol and biodiesel plants. So I really enjoyed getting to know counties and how counties work and working with all the county officials out there. So that's a little bit about me. If we could go around the room and everybody can introduce themselves for me, that would be very helpful.
Start with the sheriff.
Andrew.
Pat Gill?
You might say what you are or where you
I
are.
met both of them, but yes, that would be very helpful. If I haven't met you, if you could go around and let me know what office you work in.
Mark Narrett, County Engineer.
Mark Elger, Building Services.
Kevin Green, Zone District Health Department, Public Health Agency.
Karen James, Board Administration Office.
Julie Conley, County Assessor's Office.
Kathy Sands, County Assessor.
Gary Brown, Emergency Management. Rick Schneider, County Conservation. Danny Trent, Board of Supervisors.
John, Level Planning and Zoning.
George Boykin, County Supervisor.
Dennis Butler, Board Staffer.
Jackie Smith, County Supervisor.
J.D. Pellerstone, Human Resources.
Gloria Mollett, Human Resources.
Mike Lincoln, Treasurer.
John Malloy, IT.
Todd Wood, Sheriff's Office.
Greg Stallman, Sheriff's Office. Joshua Wendell, County Attorney's Office.
Is that everybody then? This is a great turnout, so I appreciate the time. I've got a couple of things I can hand out. One is just a little brochure that we put together. It's just kind of generally about Iowa Association of Counties and what we do. And then I'll also hand out my card. So if you think of any other questions, and I've got more if you need them afterwards, or just in general, you want to contact me, you'll have my direct dial and my email.
Yeah.
So our three main goals with these visits are, of course, just to meet all of you or visit with some of those that we've met already, to learn more about your county, and to get a better understanding of how ISAC can best communicate with you and with your needs. So I will just dive into a few questions, but like I said, if there's anything that you're just dying to tell us about, we'd certainly welcome that too. Like I said, one of the main goals is to find out what we can do better for you. So curious about what folks see as ISAC's primary duty or responsibility as an organization. Anybody gonna be brave and do the first input?
I know typically you do advocate for legislation that benefits the counties. You were instrumental in at least dialogue in the mental health issue last year, and I'm sure several others, but that goes to that.
Yep, certainly lobbying is a big part of what we do for counties. We have 3 lobbyists, full-time lobbyists on staff, and then I'm occasionally down at the Capitol. We'll pull in somebody from a specific program if there's legislation related to the program they work on. Bill's down there a lot too. Our government relations manager will be retiring sometime either towards the end of this year or next year, so we're looking at options to fill that too. We've had a lot of applications, but we do have an ad out right now, so if you know of anybody that might be interested in that, it's open until October 15th. We're taking applications. Any other suggestions on what you'd like to see ISAC's primary goals as an organization? Or more generally, what resources and services would you like us to see us provide? Sure.
This is just a question. Do you ever have any difficulty separating issues, or I'm thinking rural and urban counties? I know a while back there, and I don't even know if it's still in existence, there was an urban coalition. I don't know if they still are functioning as a unit. But
Yes, as far as I know, they are. There is an urban coalition of larger sized counties. They contract with their own lobbyists, but certainly we work with that lobbyist and try to, see what is important to them. We do struggle with that sometimes. Sometimes the small counties' needs are different, and on an issue they may come out differently. So we try to we do 2 things. If we're looking at a bill that's out there, we're trying to figure out how we can provide services to our members by lobbying on that bill. The primary thing that we would look at is if the topic of that bill is anything that's been put through by our legislative policy committee. And the way our legislative practice works now, and it's changed over the last few years, so some of you may not be familiar with it. My understanding the way it used to work is ISAC went out and kind of met with different groups that looked at specific things. So human services would meet, and we'd meet separately with all those groups and then try to compile something. What we do now is we work through the affiliates, so whatever affiliate you're a member of, that affiliate will bring us legislative objectives that they'd like to see ISAC look at in the next legislative session. And then we have our legislative policy committee, which is made up of 2 people from each of those affiliates. And we met once in August, and then we'll meet again in September, and we kind of look at all those issues, vet them, see the way they could work together, or maybe there's conflicts between some of those issues that we need to sort out. And so in September, the group will finalize that. It then goes to ISAC's Board of Directors for approval, and then it will go to the full membership at our fall school in November to vote on. So the first thing we do is look at that and see if we have some sort of policy statement or objective in there that would give us guidance on how we should react to that bill. If we don't have anything in there, then we'll go and maybe talk to specific affiliates, counties. We might do surveys, polls to try to figure out how our members feel. And we do come to situations sometimes where there's not a clear consensus among our members, and so while we'll certainly follow the bill, we may not be able to take a stance one way or the other if we feel we've got a pretty big split.
Who makes that decision, whether you're going to, or whether or not you're going to proceed?
Well, like I said, if it's in our policy book, we'll follow whatever's in our policy book. So if there's something, in the policy book that says we, wouldn't support less funding to mental health regions, probably a good example. We're going to be looking at funding next year, surely for mental health regions. So if there's something in there that we're in support of, more funding for the regions, not less, obviously that would dictate. If it comes down to kind of one of those judgment calls, maybe something comes up that wasn't in our book, typically we'll look at our legislative policy team, which is our 3 lobbyists, myself and Bill, will talk about it. A lot of times we'll go back to the board. It sort of depends upon the specific situation. Mental health regions is a good example because that kind of came up. We had a very general policy statement the year that we knew things were going to happen. So we went back to the Supervisors affiliate, and the Supervisors affiliate has their meeting in February. They looked at passing a resolution to give us more specific guidance, and then Community Services, CBCs also, their affiliate put together something that gave us more specific guidance. So sometimes we might have to go back to groups like that during the session if something pops up to get clear guidance on how to act.
When you do, let's say the auditors initiative, legislative initiative, and supervisors are opposed.
And that's one of the reasons that we like our new structure, our new setup, because it allows the Legislative Policy Committee to sort of vet that themselves. Because we've got the supervisors in the room, we've got the assessors in the room, and they can kind of decide how to get that worked out. And it's worked pretty well. What I've heard, again, I'm kind of new, but what I've heard is that when we first went to that process, people were very hesitant. The assessors maybe wouldn't want to challenge the supervisors or vice versa. To criticize other groups' ideas and why it might not work for counties as a whole. But the feeling and what I've seen from the meetings is progressed to people being much more open about, well, I don't think this is going to work because of this. Let's look at this language and really kind of come to a consensus early on in the process, which seems to work better than afterwards, once we're in the session. Yes?
Local sales tax, last legislative cycle, there's some talk of how they're gonna redistribute local sales tax where the towns were gonna keep what was spent in the towns, which would in turn be a little devastating to our secondary roads because a lot of the local option money is generated in Sioux City. And when we're using the local option to get our minimum levy, that puts us in a real bind to meet our minimum levy for the next 5 years, so we've done a bridge program that's eaten up most of that levy. Where is that now?
Last year the bill on that died. We're expecting it to be an issue again. The issue last year that really caused a lot of heartache was the changing of that formula. The bill that came out was really broad, and we felt as though while there could be some middle ground there, that it was too broad and it wound up dying. I expect, and I don't know that I've seen this specific language, but I am fairly confident that that will be in our book this year more specifically, because that kind of popped up last year, but we're expecting it to come back. So we will have some guidance on that. So certainly if you've got ideas, you can either email me and I can get it to the right person, or Linda Hinton is our government relations manager too. You could talk to her.
Okay, well, hopefully leave it like it is, because people in the rural area do spend money in Sioux City, but why should Sioux City get keep all the money? And nothing in Sioux City, but the people spend it there. And like I say, we'd have a hard time meeting our minimum levy in secondary roads. Besides, if we don't, we lose dollar per dollar. So why do they want to mess with it? Would ISAC support the counties and leave it the same?
I know when it came up last year, our stance was we don't want to change the formula. It was something that was coming, you're right, from the cities about that change. There were some changes that I think we felt we could work with as far as voting processes, and what organizations or what entities have to vote to do local option sales tax. But we were very firm on we don't want to change to the formula. And I wouldn't expect our position to differ this year on it from last year.
I think the real challenge with that bill was on the required reinitiation of the local option sales tax every 10 years. I still see that as a problem. And, you know, when you talked about looking at some things you could work with, I still don't necessarily see that as workable.
Okay.
Because when it re-ups, then it would become subject to any new information, not just, or any new state code requirements, not just potential for changes in the referendum itself. That's really the only support that the road department in Woodbury County gets from the folks within the cities is through that local option sales tax. And not only do our borough residents spend money in Sioux City, but our city residents utilize county roads to get places as well.
Are there other goals that you like to see besides lobbying? Oh, I'm sorry. Go
What
ahead.
does ISAC stand on the gas tax?
It's going to probably be one of our top priorities this year. It was one of our top priorities last year. So certainly it's going to be a top priority again to try to get an increase in the user's fee. We're using the term user's fee to avoid that idea of raising tax. We think it'll be difficult in a year like this, but it's certainly one of our main goals.
Well, the
So
governor,
everybody needs it.
the governor 2 years ago had us all go out and attend these forums, and it seemed like everybody was for it, and then he just kind of shut it down. He didn't want to hear about it.
Yeah, we really need to find somewhere somebody to be a leader on it and really take it forward. And so far, everybody said, well, if it came to me, I'll probably vote for it, but I don't want to be the one to. But we're going to keep working on that.
Well, because I'm belonging on the Highway 20 corridor group too, and we're real passionate about getting Highway 20 completed. The only way that's going to get done is we've got to have funding from somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And the governor was all for it, and then all of a sudden he shot it back down. He just didn't really want to deal with it. He's gotten everything he's wanted so far. I think it's about time that he starts listening to everybody else.
Yeah, and I know something that there's been some talk, kind of a new strategy to approach that issue is that, okay, we did property tax reform last year, and everybody understands that that's going to mean cuts to local governments, so you've got to give them some other option for road funding, and this is a way to get that done. So I think that'll be a message that we'll be pushing hard in the next session.
Christy, what is the status of the statewide mental health reorganization? There was a lot of work done on that last year. I attended some conferences where most of the supervisors from the entire state was basically against that reorganization, and I'm just wondering where that is now. This county, I think, is not for it because we're going to lose money, we're going to lose services, and if that thing goes through, we're going to have to be sharing services with the surrounding counties which are smaller than us, and there's potential of us losing some really substantial services in our own community, and we don't want that to happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot still going on with it. As far as forming the regions, I think most groups have kind of started the process to go ahead and do that, assuming that it's going to go forward. It's not to say that we won't still have conversations about that, but I think the big thing for next session will be funding, because none of this works if there aren't dollars. It's fine to have ideas on how this structure might work, but if there's not funding to back that up, it's just not going to be successful. From a very practical standpoint, as far as the region formation, we've tried to be really active in helping counties form into those regions. Linda Hinton's a great resource for questions on technical aspects of it. She has a ton of knowledge in the mental health area. As far as the actual nuts and bolts, your 2080 agreement, I've been working with groups a lot on trying to help put those together. There's a lot of requirements above and beyond what you would typically see in a 2080 for these mental health regions. So, I'm happy to help with questions on that kind of the technical side of it. But yeah, I think we'll be looking a lot at funding next year and how we can try to make it work. Well, the next year is going to be probably the hardest.
Well, the other fly in the ointment would be that the whole system would be turned over to state DHS, and we have some really deep concerns with that also. And having the appropriate services provided, if those services are turned over to a statewide DHS system, we have some real issues with that.
Yeah, I think ISAC's stance has always been that we want to maintain local control as much as possible. A lot of people are not happy with regions, and it was not something that we advocated for, but now we're kind of working under that structure, so we want to try to see if we're going to be forced into the region option. We want to try to see how we can make that work. Because we want it to be successful, you're right, we don't want it to just turn into a state-run process.
No.
So we've talked a lot about lobbying issues, so that's obviously an important aspect that we can provide to counties. Is there other types of services that you think are important for ISAC to provide?
The question of, we've always been taught when we've had some sort of legal question about to go to our county attorney. I know that ISAC offers opinions. When is it appropriate to do that, and what's the criteria for you to decide?
Well, I'm smiling at your county attorney representative here. It's something that, it's a balance, and I've been told that perhaps I'm a little more of a stickler on that balance than maybe some of my predecessors have been. But I am here as a resource. The way I see it, and you can jump in if you disagree with this, but the way I see it is I'm a resource much like, I used to work in private practice. I did a lot of securities practice, so I would call the SEC a lot. The SEC would talk to me about, well, you might look at this rule, but really it's your call. And that's kind of, I made a mistake. The SEC wasn't representing me when I called them. So that's kind of how I see it. I'm a resource. I'm always going to encourage you to consult with your county attorney, and there may be times that my suggestion is different. And what I say is, you might like my suggestion better than your county attorney's suggestion, but at the end of the day, if you wind up in a lawsuit or you have some other sort of problem, it's your county attorney that represents you, it's your county attorney that will have to defend you, and so you'll all want to be on the same page. So there's lots of good ways to call me. I always prefer if you've talked to your county attorney first. I try to encourage county attorneys to call me if they have questions, and I know that I have got questions from you before, so I think that strategy works well. If it's something simple, I know there's a code section that has the oath that officers have to take. That's pretty easy. If you can't get a hold of your county attorney, I can probably help you with that. If it's something more complex than that, we certainly want to make sure that your county attorney is involved. I think a good example of how I can be a resource is the 2080s for the mental health regions. Instead of having 14 regions have to work through that, I've been able to try to provide a form that's just an example to get folks started and to help that conversation progress more quickly because you've got something to start from. But all along the message has been, this has to go back to your county attorney. You want your county attorney to review it because they have a better understanding of your specific county's needs or how this might work with your specific county policies. So I really see it as kind of a team process. And that seems to be working so far for me. But it's a, you know, case by case analysis.
You get to that, that's one of the important things that your predecessors have always provided the counties, especially Engineers Association. We've always written model ordinances that become useful for all 99 counties on things like level B roads, level C roads, snow and ice snow and ice ordinances. One of the more recent ones that you'll probably be hearing from, possibly be hearing from our affiliate on, is the issue of farm to market extensions and how to deal with those. We recently we asked for an Attorney General opinion, we got an Attorney General letter.
Okay.
And I should probably get a copy of that to you.
Yeah, I mean, I think ordinances are another great example of where we can be a helpful resource to get the county started. You know, just because I draft a sample ordinance doesn't mean that that's going to be perfect for your needs, and so there's still certainly a role that you should be working with your county attorney to get that tailored to your needs. But hopefully it helps everybody if you've got something to kind of start from. Did that answer your question? Yeah. Okay, so we've covered legal services and lobbying. Another big thing we wanted to try to glean from these meetings is to talk about communication and what's the best way to communicate. You know, we have a website. We're actually working on retooling our website. We do the monthly magazine. We do those emails during the session. You'll see usually every Friday, sometimes every other Friday, we do email updates on legislative type issues. We're just kind of curious, how do you interact with us? How would you prefer to interact with us? I mean, we do have a Facebook, Twitter account. Do you like emails? Do you like print? Do you want to just pick up the phone and call us? What works best, and what would you like to see?
I'll jump in on that one. I like those spring legislative emails.
Okay.
I'd almost say you could replace the print magazine with an email one. The magazine's changed a lot in format over the last 4 or 5 years. I find less information than I used to get out of it. There's things that I used to read monthly that are just no longer in it.
Can you give me any examples?
Well,
not to put you on the
I'm
spot,
going
but
to pick
just
on you
just 'cause I-
particularly then, because
No, that's fine.
It used to be there was always the legal briefs section, and that has not been the same type of information we used to get.
Okay.
I mean, there would be things that would be featured as far as county code, or, you know, county ordinances, county code that would be discussed.
Okay.
I mean, a few of the ones that you've had on open meetings law have been good.
Okay. No,
There
I
used to be more
appreciate
content in that area than what we're seeing now. You know, I know the historical perspective on Lincoln is interesting, but it isn't right where we used to be on the newsletter.
Are there other thoughts about the magazine? Because that's certainly, I mean, that's something that we're looking at, is what the future of the magazine looks like, and are people still getting information from that?
On your website, it's hard to find meeting registration.
Yeah, we're working on that. That one will get fixed. I know that that's a high priority. Our search engine on our website leaves a lot to be desired, so we're hoping that that will look better in the near future.
Years ago, you used to put in your magazine if there are any attorney general opinions issued during the month affecting county governments. You used to list those.
Okay.
For some reason, they dropped that, but that'd be pretty handy to have for county officials if there's some affect their office. It's right there every month.
I like that idea. It wasn't where we used to do that, so that may be me dropping the ball in the transition. There aren't as many AG opinions that get issued anymore, but certainly when they come out, I think that's a great idea.
And I like you making the legislative update available online if we don't catch the district meetings now. That's nice to have it in that format. I use that a lot.
Okay.
Of course,
Back to the attorney general opinions, one quick question.